Hello everyone. So in this video we'll be discussing about how would you prepare for post-independence consolidation part of your GS paper 1, right? If you look at the number of questions asked in the last 13-14 years, I would say hardly 7 or 8 questions are even asked. But that doesn't mean that you have no reason to prepare for it. Because usually aspirants, even those who end up cracking this exam, they push this part post prelims. Yes, you can take your time after your prelims. It takes only 3 or 4 or 5 days to prepare for post independence consolidation. But I would say that there is certain benefit that you get if you prepare for post independence consolidation before your prelims itself. And let me tell you what it is. If you look at previous year's prelims question paper, see, first of all, I really believe that in a year, in every prelims, at least 6 to 8 questions across all subjects in prelims, they can be easily very well handled if your mains preparation is actually completed, right? And you may be surprised that where would post-independence consolidation, where would it even be applicable in prelims? Because in prelims, you have polity, which is making of the constitution onwards, and then you have history, which is until independence. So post-independence consolidation is not explicitly mentioned in your syllabus sheet. But let me tell you, every year at least there is one question where your post-independence consolidation preparation for mains can actually help you clear those questions in your prelims, right? So look at this slide before you. These are two questions asked in the last 3 years where I feel the knowledge of post-independence consolidation can actually be useful. Alright, so look at this question. Which of the following factors constitutes the best safeguard of liberty in a liberal democracy? And then you have 4 questions given. I think this is a question of Civil Service Exam 22 or 23. I'm not really sure which year it is, but this was a previous year's prelims question. And let me tell you, most of the aspirants, they went wrong. Right? They all chose committed judiciary. They really misunderstood the meaning of the word committed. They thought a judiciary that is really committed to its work. That's how they literally interpreted this word without understanding the word committed means a judiciary which is committed to the ideology of the ruling party. So that kind of a judiciary cannot be the safeguard for a common man. Right? You need a judiciary that's quite independent, that's independent of the executive and the legislature. Such a judiciary is what can help the common man. Right? So separation of powers would be the answer and not committed judiciary. This is not something that you really learn in polity. But if at all you would have learned post-independence consolidation, if at all you would have learned the chapters on Indira Gandhi from, let's say, Ramachandra Guha, you would have come across this word committed judiciary. You would have come across the idea how Indira Gandhi wanted to control judiciary, right? So those historical aspects could have been known to you, and you could have got this question right. Similarly, if you would have read post-independence consolidation, if you would have prepared for it before your prelims, you will definitely know Rajagopalachari would not have anything to do with socialism. He started a party called as Swatantra Party simply because he felt Congress is without opposition and Congress with its left inclination. Congress was going about with socialist objectives, socialist programs. So Rajagopalachari wanted a different political path. He felt Congress should not violate private property in the name of socialism. So a lot of landlords, along with Rajagopalachari, they were the ones who started the Swatantra Party. And Swatantra Party is matched with Acharya Narayan Dev. So you know that it should have been Rajagopalachari here. So you cut this off as wrong. Similarly, Rajagopalachari cannot have anything to do with socialism. You eliminate this as wrong. Right? So this is how finally you end up getting the right answer. Yes, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, even this is also known from your preparation for post-independence consolidation. Right? SP Mukherjee, he was a Jansangh leader. Right? So it was Jansangh which became Janata Party which became today's Bharatiya Janata Party. So Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, the entire history about him, how he lost his life going to Kashmir. So Kashmir, the then Chief Minister, Sheikh Abdullah, who was a very close friend of Nehru, would imprison Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, put him in bars, put him in prison. And it is in the prison, in the winter, in the cold Kashmir, SP Mukherjee dies. And because of his death, now Sheikh Abdullah would even be thrown out of his post as Chief Minister. So many things happen. Where do you learn all of these from? You learn all of this from Ramachandra Guha. It may also be there in your NCRT on post-independence consolidation. I'm not very sure, but I know since I've read Ramachandra Guha that it is there in Guha, right? So this is how preparing for a main specific topic. Let's say PIC is a main specific topic. Similarly, world history is a main specific topic. And will preparing for world history help you in any way in prelims? Yes, this year in the prelims of 2025. So there was a question. The question was 3 places were given, and in which countries were these places located. You have one place is Sardinia that was given, the other place was Normandy that was given, right? Usually you don't prepare this as a part of your prelims preparation. This is mains preparation. Normandy, you will get to encounter it in the course of your Second World War. You would know that it is in France, where the Allied forces landing took place. Sardinia, you would have learned from unification of Italy that it is present in Italy, right? So it is these knowledge which could have helped you get the 2025 prelims question correct. That's why I say every year 6 to 8 questions in your prelims, they are got right simply because your mains preparation is completed. Unless that is done, you cannot get these 6 to 8 questions right, and these are the winning trump card that you have in prelims. So don't think that PIC is less important because hardly even one question is asked in a year in mains. Well, there were years like 2013 where 4 questions were asked, 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks, right? You cannot simply anticipate and you cannot dictate that this is what a trend is, right? There were years when 4 questions were asked, then there were years when only 1 question was asked, then there were years where 0 question was asked. But the goal is your preparation should be completed, right? Assume that in the next year there could be 1 or 2 questions that would be asked from PIC. Whether it's completed now and whether it will be useful for your mains or not is a different thing altogether, but I am very sure it will be useful in some way or the other in handling a polity question that is linked to history, right? So such kind of questions can be well handled if your PIC preparation is completed, alright? So that's why PIC matters for prelims, and please make sure that you complete it well in advance before your prelims test series start. Because once your prelims test series start in the month of October or November or December, whenever you choose to start, after that you wouldn't feel that motivation to get and read a topic that's exclusively relevant for your mains preparation, right? So that's why this is the time where you prepare all these kind of areas. Alright, so where would you read from in the first place? I would say that the best book, if you have time, if you spend 10 days and for just having one read or maximum 2 reads, right? If you have 10 days, best read India After Gandhi by Ramachandra Guha. I would any day vouch for this book as a very complete source of study for post-independence topics, right? So because the problem is, when it comes to post-independence consolidation, if you read GS paper 1 syllabus sheet that is given by UPSC for your mains, the topics in PIC are not clearly laid out. It only says areas including post-independence consolidation. Nothing else is given, right? But whereas if you take the polity syllabus sheet, every single area is clearly laid out in the GS paper 2 syllabus sheet of mains, which is not the case with PIC, right? So you need to look at PYQs, you need to look at how questions were asked in the past to figure out what areas to even prepare in the first place. And after figuring out the areas to prepare, to what levels of depth should you go and cover into these areas. Even that sense you can only get by looking at PYQs, right? So these are the PYQs, and I would ask you to go look at previous year's questions, figure out where is UPSC focusing upon. And I would say that after you have understood the nature of areas asked, the best book to ensure coverage of almost every single area that can potentially be asked as a question in the upcoming years would be this book called Ramachandra Guha. Why do you think you don't have 10 days to study? Yes, you actually have 10 days. You can really sit well, comfortably, you can finish this book, right? Or if you are still adamant that you wouldn't read this book, you feel that spending so much of time is not really worth it, then maybe you read for 3 or 4 days from this NCRT, which is Politics in India Since Independence, right? It's a class 12 NCRT. I would say even this NCRT is also pretty fine, but just that everything you find in the NCRT is detailed and more factual richness is what you find in Ramachandra Guha. The anecdotes, the stories, the personal incidents of various leaders, which all are found in Ramachandra Guha. That narrative is missing in NCRT. So reading from this NCRT may be not so interesting, but I would say something is better than nothing. Instead of going and reading some market material, I would say stick to this NCRT. If you want to ace this exam, if you want to know things which others might not normally know, then Ramachandra Guha is the way to prepare for PIC. Alright. So these are the reading references. Right. All you need, as I said, is if you're, let's say you plan to read your NCRT. So what you do, you have around 9 chapters. I would say the first 8 chapters are important. The recent developments in Indian politics is something around after 1990s. The backward class mobilization that took place, coalition politics, those are what will be covered in the last chapter. I think that may not be very relevant. So let's say you have 8 chapters. You can have a timetable of 2 chapters per day. Right? So you end up covering some 30 to 40 pages per day. Right? So after you finish an entire chapter, close the book, keep it aside, have a separate notebook, maybe a 80 pages notebook for post-independence consolidation. Right? So if you have studied for 40 pages in a day, make sure whatever you have studied, without even having a look at the textbook, just close the book, put it aside, without looking into the textbook, write a summary of all that you have read. A summary consolidation, it helps in recollection, it helps in retention of what you have prepared, what you have studied. And that's the advantage you get because of writing summary. Right? So if you do this entire NCRT could be completed in 5 days at the maximum. That is 1 round of reading plus summary writing. Maybe maximum 10 to 12 days is good enough to finish the entire Ramachandra Guha if you follow this approach. Right? Just finish it off fast. This is the time to do that. Because once your prelims test series start, you wouldn't have that mindset to get into all these books. Right? So once you're done with that, now check what you have prepared from your NCRT or Ramachandra Guha. Is it helpful in handling all the questions asked in the previous years? I would say that questions asked in 2013, like for example, Tashkent Agreement in 1966, or examine the compulsions which prompted India to play a decisive role in emergence of Bangladesh. I think good answers can be written for these questions only if you read Ramachandra Guha. A superficial answer can be written even if you would have read NCRT. The choice is yours, but definitely spending some 3 or 4 days in addition while you read Ramachandra Guha can help you get 1 or 2 marks edge than others. The exam's formula is very simple. Between 2 aspirants who have equivalence in writing skills, in presentation ability, the one who reads more is going to get more marks. The one who knows how to utilize what they have read addition will get better marks. Right? So that's why I would say, if questions are slightly asked at a deeper level, NCRT reading will not suffice. You can only barely scratch the surface of the question. You cannot address the entire demand and the core objective of the question if you simply read NCRTs. So this is why I suggest to go beyond NCRTs and have a look and read Ramachandra Guha. Alright. So once you have done that, now the next step is to test yourself against previous year's questions. Okay. So this is a 2013 question and this is a 2021 question for which 2 aspirants have written answers. So this is a part of answers which they have written as a part of the Skill Up program. There's a lot that's going in the Skill Up program, and the details of the program is it's given in the comment section below. For those who are not aware of what the Skill Up program is, maybe you can have a look at what the program actually is. So these are answers written by aspirants after they have completed reading this entire book. Right? It's not an answer that's written only after knowing the question of the previous years. Right? I don't believe in this approach where you take a previous year question, only know the answer of those questions. You prepare answers only for PYQs. No, that's waste of time. The perfect mains preparation strategy is you prepare for the entire subject, and then after you feel that your preparation is completed, you come and test yourself against PYQs. So when you do that, now you become reassured that whatever you have read is worth it. Whatever you have read helps in handling previous year's questions. But you need to go one more step beyond that. This alone does not complete your PIC preparation. One more step is necessary, and that one more step is facing questions that have not been asked in the previous years, but which are very critical that they can even be asked in the upcoming years. So how do you figure out what those questions are? Very simple. You need to just look at history optional question paper, because in history optional paper, in paper 2, in modern India, there is a certain part called as post-independence consolidation, right? So when you have a look at the optional questions from PIC, from post-independence consolidation, I'm very sure you can come across at least 10 to 15 new areas, new themes, which are not yet asked in general studies in mains, right? So those are the next level of questions for you to attempt and for you to test whether the content that you have read actually helps you or not. And this is one such answer written by an aspirant in the skill up classes. And this is a question of such type. In the light of contentions over McMahon line, analyze the Indo-China relationships in the 1950 and the 60s. This was a question never asked in general studies in PIC, but this is actually a question that was taken out of history optional PIC area, right? And this aspirant has attempted this question. So this aspirant, before reading Ramachandra Guha, or before attending the classes relevant to this particular topic, would never have even known the answer for this question. But they are able to now present it. They are now able to write it. So if possible, you can have a look at, go through what are the points that has been brought by this aspirant. I would say that this was one of the better written answers comparatively. So that's why I have brought it here, right? So this would be the next step that you have to involve yourself in, right? So first, understand the nature of previous year's question. Second, read the minimum reading resource. It could be the NCERT or Ramachandra Guha. My preference is for Guha. After that, test what you have read, whether it works out to handle previous year's questions or not. Once you feel 50% assured that, okay, previous year question can be handled, now test for some questions a little bit deeper, right? So those depths you can get from history optional PIC based questions, right? Once you have done all of that, 80% of your preparation is over. Now is the time where you test yourself against random questions, new questions which are not even there in any of these areas. That comes when you join to any mains test series, right? I'll tell you what is it about, right? So let's say in 2013 there was a question: critically examine the compulsions which prompted India to play a decisive role in the emergence of Bangladesh, right? So handling this question is not so difficult. Even reading NCERT can give you points for that. Ramachandra Guha would give plenty of points for that. But what if from this particular theme, from the theme on emergence of Bangladesh, what if a new type of question is asked? And that is what this question is. How did India win the diplomatic war in support of its intervention in Bangladesh liberation struggle before even winning its war with Pakistan? Right? So India first won its support from various other nations. Indira Gandhi went on a whirlwind tour. So she toured different Western countries. She could put forward India's case. She could win the support of foreigners. It is after she knew that she has the support of other countries, after she knew that she had signed the Indo-Soviet Treaty of Friendship, it's only after that she had the courage to directly go and take on Pakistan, help Bangladesh in its liberation struggle. That's what this question actually expects, whether you know those aspects or not. Right? Examine the changing contours of India's foreign policy under Indira Gandhi. Right? So you find it is during Indira Gandhi's time, India becomes very close to USSR. During the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, it was equidistant from both the West as well as from Russia. But under Indira Gandhi, there was a great leftist tilt. There was a tilt towards socialism and communist Russia. So these two aspects is what is checked in this question, and this is a fresh theme, never asked before in GS, never asked before in history optional. So you need to get exposed to these kind of questions as well. This would complete your mains preparation for PIC. Whether you do it now or whether you do it after your prelims is up to you. This is a stage that can even be postponed after your prelims, but if other steps are completed. What are the other steps? Reading the books, attempting previous year's questions, also attempting new questions not yet asked in GS but which have been asked in history optional, which means that these are the areas where UPSC might turn its attention to in the upcoming years, right? If this is all completed right now, you definitely will feel confident in approaching PIC after your prelims. Even this step, facing new question never ever asked, you can do this after your prelims is over in the upcoming year. Alright, so I think this is all about the mains preparation strategy for post-independence consolidation, and believe me, the efforts that you put in right now will help you clear prelims. It's a sum total of different areas. World history, one question that intersects between mains and prelims. PIC, one question that links between mains and prelims. Polity, one question that links between prelims and mains, right? Like that, totally 6 to 8 questions end of the day will help you clear prelims, right? So make sure that you converge preparation and make it doubly useful for clearing both prelims as well as mains. All right, thank you.